It is time to stop for the world and for the church, for the lost person and for the Christian. It's time to stop worshiping worthless, empty things. It is time for us to focus not on temporary things, but on eternal things. That's why world evangelism is so vitally and urgently important in the ministry of every one of us. The Bible says in Acts chapter 14 and verse 15, and saying, Sirs, why do you these things? We are also men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that you should turn from these vanities unto the living God. Turn away from empty thoughts, wasted life, wasted time, wasted doctrine, wasted believing. Turn away from all of that stuff and turn unto the living God. The living God. Now, Paul's on Mars Hill, and they've got all these idols set up, and they're trying to be very tolerant, coexistent type people. Kind of like all those that you see drive by in their car, and it's got the coexistent on the back, and they kind of want to get along with everybody. You can talk about your God today, and I'll talk about my God tomorrow, and we'll all be friends, and we'll all hold hands and sit around a campfire. But Paul said, no. Time to turn from the vanities to the living God. And then he makes a declaration about the living God that you can never forget, but he goes along with what you've heard over the last couple of days. The God which made heaven and earth and the sea and all the things that are therein. You know, when Paul was on Mars Hill and he's talking to all these religious types, it seems like one of his first ventures wasn't to the cross, but to the Creator. Because if there's no Creator, the cross has little or no value, really. If God didn't make the world, then how can God determine what happens to the world? If God didn't create the world, how does God own the world? And I'm afraid that you and I have allowed that attitude to seep in amongst us. We've allowed the attitude to seep in amongst us that maybe it's not that important about the creation story. I hear about big name preachers. I mean, the ones that got the radio broadcasts and the television broadcasts in the largest churches in America. And I read about them and they're like, well, you know, the creation, that's not that important. In fact, they'll even say that there are two different creation stories. They're in the Bible, Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, which is totally ignorant. In my opinion, totally ignorant, like an ignoramus had to think of that up. So Paul comes along and he says, guys, you need to understand something. All these other gods, you can make all their little idols, but I'm here to worship the unknown God. But let me tell you who the unknown God is. He's the creator God. He is the creator God. And he created the heaven and the earth and the sea and all the things that are therein. Why are y'all worshiping vanities? Something that is of no use, something that is empty and powerless, worthless, and lacks truth. Why do you do those things? Sirs, why do you these things? They seem to have a hunger for God. They seem to want to know about God. They seem to want to know about religion. They seem to want to know about it, but they're ignorant of truth, and there are no preachers. Isn't that what's going on all around the world? Isn't that what's going on in Nigeria, where preachers stand daily and talk about it was for your pleasure and God's going to take care of you? And some of the richest preachers in the world live in Nigeria, sucking the money off of extremely poor people there. Or isn't it terrible that over in Kenya, where they could be all Christians, that they're doing that exact same thing? And come on. We must be like Paul. And he said unto them, and I preach unto you. He said, I'm not here to have a discussion with you. I'm not here to have a dialogue. I'm not here to enter into some agreement. I'm telling you, turn from the vanities, turn from the emptiness, turn from the waste, turn from the joke, and turn to the truth of the living God. The living God. The God who was alive. Not the God that some guy made in a corner wood shop. Not some guy that laid down a big old Buddha made out of gold and rubbed gold into place, and people stand around and are awed by him. The God who made things. He's the creator God. All other gods were made by their worshipers. But the God of the Bible made his worshipers. What are you going to do with these truths? Are you going to tell people about the God of creation? Or are you going to allow them to continue to worship empty, worthless, dead, powerless gods? We are to take the gospel to the world. Would you help? Would you get involved in carrying the gospel message of Jesus Christ to the world?